Hello, welcome to Insight Now with the Homemade Family.
Hello, happy Friday. It's good to be with you all again. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be doing part 2 of emotions.
Yes,
Nathaniel, take it away.
take it away. So, hopefully, your April Fool's Day has been not too eventful. We just had some smoking toilets and some water running out of the bathroom. Nothing too major over here. Last week we talked about what emotions are, that they are good. We talked about that they are good, that they are from God, and that they are part of being made in God's image because God also has emotions. We said that they are indicators, not determiners. And what we mean by that is that they make us ask what is going on and that they don't tell us what is going on. So you feel an emotion, and then that doesn't say, hey, this is my truth. It makes you go, oh, what is happening? And then you process it and filter your emotions based on truth. So because emotions are good, we don't just wall them off. Sometimes they aren't pleasant, but we don't just wall them off. Just like you're thankful that you're not numb. You can tell if you're touching something that's going to burn you, or something that's hot, or something that's sharp, that's dangerous for you, right? You're glad that you're not just numb. Same thing for emotions. Because they're good, we don't just wall off or stuff them somewhere we can't find them, but also because emotions are only indicators of something, we need to process them instead of letting them completely dictate our thinking and decision making. In other words, we're not going to be guided by our emotions, but we're also not going to deny our emotions. So to help in that process, last week we tried to help you identify the truths that you live from as a starting point, and then couple that with a vision for your future as a destination point. When you have truths that you live from, no matter how you feel, you're going to live from these truths. When you have those truths and a vision for where you want to get no matter what, that becomes your starting point and your destination point, and they help keep you on track, or your kids on track, during all the things that might want to knock you off course during life. So this week we want to dig into more of the practical issues of emotions, and maybe that sounds like a contradiction in terms, the practical issues of emotions, but actually there are so many practical details when it comes to emotions. And what we're going to find today is that when we demystify what is happening when we feel strong emotions, it helps bring us to peace so that those emotions can return to indicator level emotions instead of life dominating level emotions.
Mm-hmm. So here is the roadmap for today. And my guess is that we're not actually going to get through everything today, and we'll have to finish this next week. But just so you know where we're going to start with why do you want to help your kids process emotions? And where do emotions come from? And what do you do with your emotions? And then finally, we're going to give some really practical tips, for different things. And we'll share some stories along the way also. I have a little distraction going on.
Getting a security notification right in the middle of our thing.
It's okay. I'm not distracted. So we're going to start first by talking about, why do you want to help your kids process emotions? And, it seems like this would just be common sense. Like, we need to help kids. But let's talk about several different things here with the whys of why are we doing this? Why should this matter? Why don't we just send them off to their bedroom? Like, why do we need to get down on their level, help them through these things? So,
yeah, because as our mentors, one of our mentors in parenting points out, parenting is never convenient.
Right.
And it certainly would be a lot easier to just be like, hey, yeah, feel what you feel. And I don't need to engage with this. And I don't need to process this. Seriously, I might need to just go get my son.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, I apologize. Somebody in Chicago is trying to use my son's email address, and he's not in Chicago. So the reason why helping our kids manage their emotions is a huge service and benefit and expression of love to them is, first of all, it gives them a sound foundation to build their life on. Emotions change constantly. Like, have you noticed this? Emotions are not the same today as they are yesterday. I don't know how many emotions I have had just today. And I tend to be a pretty even keel guy. In fact, my mom used to describe me. She's like, your brother, he's like across the middle. And my gesture is not on screen. He's like across the middle, and he'll go up a little and down a little. Nathaniel, you are like always riding high. And then every now and then you go, and it's like you bottom out, and it's ugly. This is part of why I've learned I need to help manage my emotions. But it gives our kids a strong foundation. And if we try to live from our emotions, it's like trying to build a house on a foundation of Jell-O. Or it's like we're leaning on a wall, and all of a sudden that wall might disappear on us, and we don't know when. It's completely unpredictable, just like living from our emotions. But when we build on truth, the very nature of truth is that it doesn't ever change, because truth is a person, and his name is Jesus. And when Jesus speaks his word to us, his word is always true, his word is always faithful, and he's always going to back it up. In fact, his word is so trustworthy that the entire universe, scripture tells us, that the entire universe is held together by the power of his word. If you want to get really deep into this, scientists can't tell you what holds atoms together, but scripture says it's the power of his word.
That's really good. All right. Second thing, reason why we want to help our kids process is because it actually safeguards them from negative things that honestly have become really common today, but they're not necessarily good things. So we want to protect them, and we want to give them tools for healthy living. Right? Yeah. We all want healthy kids. We all want kids who make wise choices and are protected. And so that's why we want to help our kids process emotion. It can keep them safe from depression. Depression can sometimes be an actual chemical imbalance. If you're dealing with extreme levels of depression, please get help from a doctor. But most of the time, depression is actually because of our belief system, or because we've taken on lies and lived on them and built them as truth.
Right.
And we need to learn how to manage these things when they're small, when our kids are young, and they can identify truth or untruth. Is this emotion real, or why am I having this emotion? If they can catch that fast at a young age, then when they're older, they won't be so susceptible to depression. Anxiety goes right along with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've been through this with our kids so many times. I remember a handful of times for several of our kids in particular where like high anxiety, like I am crumbling in my seat in tears because I have a test to take. In fact, one of our kids, it used to be that they would thrive in every single thing until you said, okay, now you're going to have to take a test on it. And they would be the best in the class, best in the class, best in the class. And as soon as there was a test, they became like literally unable to produce anything of an answer or a skill, whatever the test was in. As soon as the word test was said, there was such high test anxiety, nothing, complete shutdown. Well, shush, you can't go through life like that. Like there are things you actually have to prove you can perform and prove that you know things and whatnot. Like you have to be able to do these things. You can't crumple in anxiety over a word. And so what we go to the root system of those things and we say, okay, well, what are you believing about this? And this is getting a little bit maybe ahead of ourselves, but we have to be like, okay, well, what do you think? Like, is this test going to determine some big dramatic conclusion for the rest of your life? And if you don't pass this test, or if you don't do well enough, then you're going to fail. I mean, like you're in third grade, for Pete's sake, like this is, nobody's ever going to know how you did on this test. If you completely fail it and you get every single one of them wrong, all it does is it tells us what you need to learn, go back and learn again, and that's all it tells us. That's the only thing. And so we had to do a lot of mindset renewing on what the truth is so that they could overcome anxiety. But And like, that's just test anxiety. What about questions like, should I apply for that job? You know, if you, Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. And if you just have, have anxiety or fear over, can I even do that? Am I qualified? Like, you take yourself out of the running, it affects your life over anxiety. How about this one? Should I speak up for myself? Drawing boundaries is a struggle for just about every person, but something that just about everybody who knows they struggle with it wishes they did better. And here is one of the areas where if you know truth and you live from truth, then you've got something that guides you, that guards you, that protects you, that gives you confidence, that gives you that firm foundation that says, you know what, if I draw this boundary and they reject me, I'm still going to be okay. I don't need to be affirmed by this person in order to be okay with the rest of my life. I can live from the truth of knowing who I am, of knowing that I'm loved, of knowing I have a place I belong, where I'm accepted for who I am, regardless of whether this goes how I want it to or not. And that enables me to draw a boundary and takes away the anxiety. Yep. So we can serve our kids, love on them by teaching them to live from truths. It guards them from depression, from anxiety. It can also guard them from trauma. So research shows that people who go through the exact same traumatic experience will come out of that experience with different levels of trauma. And what that research has shown as the main difference in why people came out with differing levels of trauma is what they believed about the experience as they were going through it. So for example, if two people were going through the exact same situation, the same car accident, the same school shooting, whatever it is, a traumatic experience, if one of them believed that it was hopeless, believed that they were going to die, believed that they had no power, they felt completely under the situation, that person was much more likely to experience deep trauma from that experience than someone who saw some speck of hope or life, or I'm connected to a bigger thing, or even if it's just as simple as, you know what, if the worst happens and I die, I go to Jesus. And I love what Chris Valentin says. He says, you can't threaten me with heaven. It's like, if that's your perspective, that grounds you in something way bigger than that. And it's like, no, I'm rooted in a truth that God's big enough for this. He can redeem it. No matter how bad this goes, he's going to work it out for my good. And if you are really, truly rooted in those truths, you can actually have courage in a battlefield or a car accident or wherever you are. You can have courage instead of trauma.
Yeah. And then all too often these days, suicide has become a big thing lately. And if we can help our kids actually recognize and process emotion, help them recognize and process the lie, and help them recognize and process what to do when they get into these situations, then hopefully they never even get close to the point of wanting to kill themselves or being swayed by those emotions that would lead to that such hopelessness that it would lead to emotion. If we teach them when they're young how to process these things, how to recognize these things, how to manage themselves in the emotion and not give themselves fully to the emotion, then it can help to safeguard them from suicide and suicide attempts.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of where we're seeing the record high numbers of suicides nationwide, I think a lot of it honestly is because we've taught our kids that they're supposed to always be happy and feel happy. And all of their quality of life is centered around their emotional state, which, yikes, like we said, they're constantly changing. How many emotions have you had today? And does that actually determine the whole picture of how good your life is, or whether it's worth living, or how much hope you have? And if that's actually what you think about your life, that the quality of it comes from how you feel, then man, no wonder that leads to hopelessness and depression and anxiety, and eventually, I just don't see a future for myself. So this literally can save lives if we
Yeah.
just teach kids not to live from their emotions and how to process them instead.
Yep. Yep. So good. So true.
So all of this is tying. Oh, we have a fourth reason. So like, oh, sorry, we have a third and a fourth reason.
Yeah.
I'm just way back here. So, so it can protect our kids from all kinds of things: depression, anxiety, even suicide. It gives them a sound foundation to build their life on. And third, it teaches them to manage their appetites. So
we're not just talking about food.
we're not just talking about food, though we are talking about food.
But food works.
Again, literally, it can save lives. The number one killer in America right now is heart disease. And it comes mainly from bad diet, more than even genetic issues. Blood-related things, diabetes, sugar, like these are literally killing people throughout our country. And the ones that it's not killing, a lot of people are suffering from other things. It's decreasing quality of life, particularly as people get older. And if we teach them to manage appetite, say no to that second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever, it can be helpful.
Yeah, but appetites aren't just food. Sometimes we do use food to help train in managing appetites, but appetites really are anything that you desire or have a strong feeling towards or lust after, and not even lust in a bad way, like just sexually, but the things that you desire, like how much screen time. I feel like this is what I want to do, but is that really what we should be going after? Like I want screen time, or I want ice cream. Food's such an easy one. I want to have sex, so I'm gonna just go do it.
Right. So I'm attracted to this person, therefore I need to pursue them because I follow my emotions. Right.
And the part of what's sweeping the nation right now is that yes, children should follow every desire they have. Like if they think that they want to be an animal, it's okay to be an animal, just embrace that as an identity. But really, that's just an appetite. It's just a desire. And emotions are made to serve us, not that emotions should become who we are. Emotions are never a piece of our identity. And so helping kids to understand an emotion is a gift from God to help strengthen us and cause good in our life, instead of emotion is the thing that actually gives me my identity and dictates where I go. Yeah. So it teaches them, as we teach them to manage their emotions, they will learn how to manage their appetites, which will then, appetites being desires, then it helps them to be strengthened again on the foundation of truth.
Yes. So again, the outline recap, just to help you hear it as we're going through it and remember it, that you want to help your kids learn to process emotions because it gives them a sound foundation. It guards them from many negative things that have become too common. It teaches them to manage their appetites. And fourth, honestly, because they're going to be raising your grandchildren.
Grandbabies.
I
like grandbabies.
It is never.
I don't have any yet, but I can't wait for some.
Well, yeah, except we are, because we're going to teach our kids to, manage their appetites. So they're not just going to run out. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be raising your grandchildren. It is never too early to be thinking ahead towards this. Please have vision for your family line. Be building what you want to build. We say this to our kids. We only teach you what we want to see our great grandchildren also teaching their kids. Mm-hmm. And so listen to us as ones who need to teach this to others, because you do and you will. So this applies to managing appetites. This applies to managing emotions. You don't want your kids or their spouses to be fickle emotionally. So it's like, yeah, I fell out of love with you. I'm leaving you. I'm done. I'm walking away. Or you don't want your kids to be flying off the handle at their spouse or their kids. You want them to be stable, steady, strong, firm, confident, capable. Like you want them imparting strength from one generation to the next, but they're not going to learn it unless we teach it. So,
yep. And then the fifth reason and the final reason that we have listed for why we want to help our kids process their emotions is because all of this is actually managing their emotions is part of the fruit of the spirit of self-control.
yes.
Self-control. We're not trying to teach, we are trying to teach our kids to be self-controlled, that not others controlled, not emotion controlled,
yes,
but self-controlled. So they actually manage themselves well. Isn't this the point of parenting? But if emotions are always dragging them one way or another, are they actually self-controlled or are they emotion controlled?
yeah.
So we work to teach them so that they can actually control their lives, be self-controlled through help from the spirit to make good choices in life. We teach very much that our kids are powerful and that they have choices to make and they have responsibility for the choices they make. It's not, you made me do it, he made me do it, this made me do it, that made me do it. No, those things happened, yes, but the choice for what you did was actually your choice. And that's such a simple thing to help them to learn that their choices have consequences. And at one point, our daughter, when she was like 6, I think she made up a song and actually would sing it about like, you don't control me, you don't make me angry, like I'm in charge of my own emotions or my own choices. It was kind of funny. But it puts us in a position to influence what's going on or to respond to a situation instead of just being a victim to it. And all of us are growing in this, not just our kids, but us as well.
Yeah.
Like
they didn't make you angry. You chose to be angry.
Yeah. You chose to allow them to, you chose to be angry. Yep.
That doesn't necessarily, like, none of that makes what happened to you okay. Right. It just means that what happened to you does not dictate your response. If there is a difference between a response and a reaction.
Yes.
And if you are just reacting, then you have given up control of your life to the other person, to the situation, to whatever is going on. You're no longer in control. You're not able to choose the outcome of what's going to happen. But if you are going to respond, that means you're going to receive what's happening, process what's happening, and choose your response. Now, that's actually being responsible. Mm-hmm. So that's what we want for our kids. It leaves them in a place of being the powerful one in any situation. It doesn't prevent them from suffering harm. It doesn't prevent them from people having control over them in some way, shape, or form. And throughout every situation of their life, there's still going to be things that are, obviously, we're not God. We're not controlling everything. But it's going to leave them in a place of responding to it in the most healthy way.
Right.
So
quick 10-second recap why we want to help our kids process emotions. First, it gives them a sound foundation to build off of. Second, it guards from negative things that have become too common, like depression, anxiety, trauma, and suicide. Third, it teaches them to manage their appetites. Fourth, they're going to be raising your grandkids, and we actually care about how the next generations are raised, and we need solid.
It's the future of the world, guys.
It is the future of the world, and
not to place it too heavily, but it is.
Yep. And then the last reason is because we want our kids to be self-controlled, not others or emotion controlled.
Yep.
Okay, where our emotions come from. Where our emotions come from. The first place that emotions can come from is from physical causes. Hunger is one of those things. Our blood sugar is going up or down. That can make us a little crabby. We might not respond in the way that we normally do. Hormones. How many of you have hormones? This is something going on in our home right now. We have a 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And so hormones. Puberty. Hello, puberty. It's fun. You know, my 14-year-old, a couple years ago, there was a day where I went up and he was just laying in his bedroom, just crying. And he said that he'd been crying for about 45 minutes. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is unhealthy. why don't you come and be with people? Because he's very much a people person. And so, we just talk about the hormones of puberty. Our daughter has been amazing. We've hardly had any issue at all, which is a surprise to me because when I was going through those years, I was an emotional roller coaster basket case and very aggressive and sassy in those days too. But something that we have found that worked just really well is talking to our kids about it. Like, hey, you're going to feel these emotional surges. They're real. They're hormones. Here's what's happening in your body. Doesn't mean that you have to give yourself to them.
Right.
Be aware.
Yeah. Just because these hormones are new to you does not mean like you're going to have these hormones the rest of your life. It's just that right now they're being released to you in a way that you've never had them before. And so you see Mom and me, we are a man and a woman. We have grown up and we've learned to do life with these levels of hormones. You will learn this also, and the sooner the better, for your sake and for everybody around you. So there's no surprise. It's okay that you're feeling what you're feeling. It's okay that you feel it intensely. Just know that you still have to be responsible to love well, despite how you might be feeling in any given moment.
Right. That's really good. So we're talking about physical causes of emotions. And the reason that we want to start looking at what causes emotions is because we always, when we come to an emotional situation, we want kind of like to do a quick assessment. We run through this checklist, like what are the things causing these emotions? And then that gives us the framework for how we're going to deal with those emotions. So,
right. And this was something we did all the time with our kids when they were really little. We talk about discipline in these talks on Friday. Sometimes we talk about, handling temper tantrums and things like that, and actually addressing our kids' wills. But the first questions we would ask, we wouldn't ever just jump to, well, maybe sometimes when it was really, really obvious.
Right.
But unless it was really, really obvious that, no, this is a straight up willful temper tantrum, we wouldn't just jump to that and assume that that's what it was. We would ask the nap, when was the last time they ate? Have they had too much sugar? Even screen use. Have they been in front of a screen for too long? Did they go play with friends who are crazy and they brought the crazy back home with them? Have we just had a lack of structure in the home because our schedule's been had been through upheaval and they're just unsettled and they need some firmness and some predictability to their life? All of those things from 1-year-old to 91 years old at some level can cause disruptions in emotions. And we need to know, like, what it gives us so much benefit to be able to identify that in those moments when we're feeling these emotions, to be able to take a step back and go, this is not actually directly connected just with the situation I'm experiencing right now. Mm-hmm. So maybe Amy, I feel really like upset with something about Amy. She did something, just hypothetically. Never, this hasn't ever happened before. I mean, like never. But let's just say that I'm upset with Amy for some reason. If I can pause for a moment before I jump off the emotional cliff and go, why am I feeling this so strongly? And I go, oh, we've been super busy. I'm short on sleep. I haven't eaten right today. And by the way, that could just be, I haven't eaten right. Not just like we've been traveling. It's been junk food, not healthy food. I don't remember the last time I had a salad. Like it can be, I haven't fueled myself right. And all of these things are going on today. Mm-hmm. And so I'll back off. I'll recognize it's not Amy. It's hormones. It's chemicals. It's sleep deprivation. It's other things are making me feel what I'm feeling. It's not her. It's not her fault. And I won't take it out on her because of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about where emotions come from, because step one in dealing with emotions or helping to process emotions is knowing where they come from. So first of all, there's physical things that could be causing the emotional outburst or the emotion that you're having, whether that's sadness, I mean, joy, anger, depression, these things. Like, first, where is this coming from? Let's identify it. Going through the physical things that Nathaniel just talked about, sleep, hunger, tired, PMS, hormones. like let's identify first the physical things. Okay.
Would you just talk about PMS for a second?
Yeah. So obviously
it's better coming from a woman than from a man. We agree, but it's better coming from Amy.
Yep. So obviously every woman has a cycle, and your hormones get stronger right before you start to menstruate. And how we deal with that, though, we don't need to be driven again by our emotions or the hormones. That, I don't just say, well, I'm just crabby because I have hormones, and that's end of story. So I have a right and a justification to be crabby. I will tell you what I most often do is I end up noticing that I'm having short reactions to things. And I go, oh, let me think what time of the month it is. Okay. Now I see that I need to be a little more on my guard, slow all my internal process down, because these things just feel exacerbated, like the stress or the little things and the shortness of my reaction in that. So I do not give myself permission to allow my hormones to dictate my response, my attitude, the way that I handle or deal with family, like in kindness and in choices. But I do recognize and say, oh, I can tell this is where this is coming from.
Yeah.
I see it a mile away. I know it happens every month. And so then I'm going to give grace to myself. I'm going to slow down my process, and I'm going to respond in a way that is self-control, not hormone controlled.
Yeah. And I love that key word that you said there. It helps you give yourself grace. Like, you don't need to deny that the emotions are there. You don't need to deny the intensity of them. You just don't get to abdicate responsibility for how you treat the people you say you love. like, oh, once a month, I'm just going to break all the trust I built the rest of the month. I'm going to be, untrustworthy this one time of the month. Mm-hmm. Like, same thing for guys. Like, there isn't a situation where you get off the hook just because of XYZ. Like, we are responsible to love our families well and to not make excuses for bad choices. Like, and that doesn't by any means, that never means you have to be perfect. And it can also open up room. If I see that Amy is giving herself grace, I can give her grace too. Like, hey, okay, you said something you shouldn't have, but you realized it, and you're cleaning up your mess. There's grace.
Yeah.
There's always grace. Just clean up your mess. Mm-hmm. You said something you shouldn't have. You hurt people's heart. Just apologize and ask for forgiveness. There's always grace to be in process and to be imperfect. We're just trying to help set a standard and paint a target that you can shoot for, and help your kids shoot for too. But please, 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 don't make this a perfectionistic thing that, like, okay, we're going to demand this of our family or ourselves now. It's going to be a process as we learn to just be healthy and responsible with our emotions.
Yeah. So we have many more causes of emotions and what happens, and then what do we do with that? And then some really practical stuff that we do with our kids and our family. But we are out of time for today. And
our dog is about to go crazy because the neighbor just came over.
Right? Oh, well, sorry about that. So join us back here next week for the rest of the talk. You can listen to part 1 from last week, and thank you for joining us. We will catch you again next week. God bless you.
Yep, bless you.
Maybe we're gonna end today.